The next phase of this, I kind of know everybody there because they're involved with the creative community here in San Antonio, which I am very happy to be involved in, and I'm happy to have you get to see these presenters. They're fantastic. And we're going to start with Mr. Neil Fauerso, who's a regular contributor to Glass Tire, Art News, Bandcamp, which I don't know what it is, but maybe you'll tell us. He founded a record company, or label, I'm sorry, Unseen World in 2005 with Tommy, I'm going to get it wrong, McCushion, thank you. I'm good at that, getting things wrong. I'm a little dyslexic, and I'm also Miss Malaprop, as they say. Anyway, so that's the flip side of Randy Beamer. So don't worry about your job, okay? Your day job. Sorry, back to Neil. He has organized many concerts all over the world, and we're going to bring him up here so he can tell us about, so he can actually talk about himself instead of me talking about me. Neil Fauerso.
Okay, thank you so much, Ethel, for that nice introduction. So let's get started. Spacebar start. Neilism. Hi, I'm Neil Fauerso. I write about art and culture and run a record label called Unseen Worlds. This presentation will articulate my personal philosophy, Neilism, through a series of stills from my favorite films, as movies have been the way I like to process the world since as long as I can remember. Okay, living in the world I find is mainly like this scene from The Counselor, when a wire loop is placed around Brad Pitt's neck with a motor that slowly tightens until it severs his head. Each day is a word click of the motor. This produces the experience of feeling in every endeavor as if one is ringing a bell over a void shrouded by fog. It is cold and damp and unclear what the point of ringing the bell is, or if anyone is listening. Loneliness results. Every space becomes an empty parking lot bathed in unsettling, otherworldly fluorescent light. Perhaps you hear the murmur of conversation, the footsteps of strangers, a plane taking off or landing, the Doppler drone of passing traffic. But you feel removed, frozen in green. Each day or month or year ends metaphorically the same way, at the edge of a lake alone. Perhaps it is pre-dawn and a party has ended that wasn't much fun despite all the drugs you took. Or maybe it's where you walk after a soul-crushing, pointless job. Another day of your life irrevocably gone to some meaningless make-work involving synergy or branding. Religion is obviously the solution for many to the anguish of existence, but I find it difficult with all the blood that seeped into the frame. There's the blood from all the war and misery, and also the blood of life that seems often incompatible with the tenets of faith. This is not how things work. Even if religion brings solace, it's impossible not to find oneself alone in a boat surrounded by mists and ghosts. This is ultimately the tragedy of human consciousness. Understanding mortality and trying to make sense of such mysterious and inscrutable existence necessitates that you will get lost. In the end, it probably doesn't matter very much what you believe. In those last moments, you will follow the figures on the hill. If you have lived well with love and kindness, those figures will hopefully be your friends, perhaps some fun medieval musicians and gestures. If you have lived poorly, a life filled with hate, cruelty, and violence, I'd like to think the figures on the hill waiting for you are rockabilly vampires who will drain you for eternity while the gun club's Fire of Love plays on repeat. But probably not. So we stay burning with the past, with the dread of the future, with the flickering illusion of the present, burning in a pyre of loneliness, fear, and boredom. Amidst all this is, of course, desire. Desire for love, for wealth, for pleasure, for fame, for righteousness, for respect. The hand reaches, or really, it flails, for the ruby glass. This is essentially the cycle of life until that horrible machine from the counselor cuts your head off. It's enough to make one burst, and we do all the time, with increasing frequency. Despite supposedly living in the best of all worlds, life expectancy is going down, suicide and overdoses are up, despair permeates all. Because of climate change, the world most likely will end, at least as we currently live it, in a few decades. And I think awareness of that has accelerated our already existing ennui. So what is nihilism and how do I cope? Well, I don't really, but for the sake of this presentation, let's say I do. I call it watching the barn burn. This is essentially an exercise of perspective. The director, Andrei Tarkovsky, who I believe to be the greatest artist of all time, was a master of this. Every moment of your life, if frozen in the mind, could have the chaotic freedom of a bunch of naked pagans swimming in a river in medieval Russia. Not really, but the point stands. Tarkovsky's book of his philosophy of film is called Sculpting in Time, which is what he did with his work and what one can do with how they see the world. Let's say you work a terrible job, perhaps in a used car lot or some other awful form of retail. What could just be the sprawling detritus of capitalism can become glittering neon infinity, no less beguiling than a Kusama piece if one freezes and sculpts time. Let's say you're alone at a club. None of your friends or your secret love showed up. The song Rhythm of the Night is playing. Sad, right? Not if you sculpt time and watch the barn burn. This provides a distance different from that described earlier because it is intentional that allows one to at least emotionally be resistant to the humiliation and degradation intrinsic in survival. Sorry, timing is a little weird, but the traditions and rituals that may seem so rote and trivial slow down and take on a surreal charge. The sadness of the past can be imbued with the Portuguese word saudade, meaning melancholy nostalgia. Even in death, when the senses begin to fade, there can be beauty in this sunset. The last act cannot be planned or determined, but you can frame the scene. So finally, you may not be able to walk on water, but at least you could truly see and feel, if only for a moment, the ripples and the rivulets to sculpt time, in the words of Tarkovsky, like reeds in the stream. Thank you.
Let's give it up for Neil. Sir Fauerso. Again, I'm not as good as Randy. Oh, here it is.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay. So no meet cute and no musicals, I see.
No. No, well, yeah, no musicals in there, yeah. If anyone can name all 20, what the films are for all 20 of those stills, I will give you an authentic New Mexico Kachina doll. So that's just on the table.
Oh my God, that's
yeah.
that's a good one. If you need to do that, you can meet Neil out front, and he'll be by the limousine. They want papers on the doll. So Neil, tell us, you've been, I guess it's watching films for how long?
As long as I can remember. The first still.
So it's not binge watching. It's just
yeah. The first still in the slideshow is from The Exorcist, the beginning of The Exorcist, when Max von Sydow is in Iraq and he uncovers some horrible little guy in the.
And you were 2?
I was 5 when I saw it, so a little too young, but.
But nobody was home, so.
Yeah, I was then terrified of the devil for like 5 years. I wasn't raised Christian at all. My parents were like, "What's going on?" So
everyone was afraid of the devil with that movie. So what are the 4 top films, other than the ones you showed us, that your 4 top favorite films of any genre?
I mean, my favorite movie of all time is Raising Arizona. And then, to me, the best movie of all time, of which there is a still from this, is the Tarkovsky movie Andrei Rublev. And two others, the movie I probably like to watch the most is Comfort, is Goodfellas, and the best movie I've seen in the last year is this movie called The Writer about Lakota Native Americans in South Dakota. So I'll say that.
So still
Yeah.
no musicals, but thank
Yeah.
you very much, Neil.